So I actually started driving for Uber a few months back now, 5 months back roughly. And one of the reasons why I started doing this was because running a startup from a financial position, it's very, very stressful. And Uber was a great way of making some side income to help pay for advertising, pay for some of the extra expenses that I had from a business standpoint. And over the last 5 months, there's a few things that really, really stood out to me just in sort of my day-to-day sort of like interaction with people. So within the last 5 months, to give you some perspective of how much driving I've been doing, I now have over 2,500 people that have essentially jumped into my car. So I'm doing about 500 rides per month on average, which translates to about 8,000 to 10,000 kilometers per month of actual driving, which is a lot, to say the least. But in doing so, there's a couple of things that I really, really enjoyed about Uber in itself, and there are some things that I find very fascinating about Uber. And being sort of the data nerd that I am, what I started doing was essentially collecting information about people and just sort of like how they interact with you in the car. Different demographics, where they're coming from, which location, how they engage with you, how they think about you, how they talk to you. The first thing I'll say about Uber altogether is Uber is actually a really, really great way to network. Like, I think it's hands down one of the best networking events that exists, period. Being a curious person that I am, I always want to know what are you doing and what's your reason for taking Uber. And so some will interact, some won't. I've had people that essentially offer me positions at companies. I've met investors that want to invest in my business, and I've met people that want to volunteer to work for my company as well too. So just by interacting with people, I've learned quite a few things. The other thing that you learn is essentially just you get a pulse of the city and where the hot events are, obviously where people are going, but also what demographics are going to which parts of the city. And so it sort of made me thinking a little bit about what else can you do with this data? Because I'm collecting this data in sort of real time in my head, and sort of like I have a very good prediction of where people are going to go based on where I pick them up in sort of the car. And what I realized is that you can actually use this information to start planning entire cities. So city could essentially collaborate with, say, Uber or sort of a ride-sharing program and use that information to figure out how to build roads or how to, structure transit so that you could essentially sort of like, free up traffic and whatever, because you're collecting that data in real time based on events that are happening in the city. So I thought that was really, really fascinating. But more so, what I found very, very interesting, and this is where the social part comes in and sort of the technology portion, is how many people jump into the car and the first thing that they do is look at their phones. Hi, how are you doing? And they just look at their phones. And after doing this for so many periods, I realized that this was actually a problem. It was a real problem because, and it might be because I'm sort of a social person and I'm sort of a traditionalist, I would like to describe myself. And what I noticed was the fact that because they weren't, they weren't necessarily eager to engage, I'd have to sort of like push a little bit to kind of connect with them. And sometimes they'll have a conversation, they'll jump out of the car and say, thank you for actually talking to me. What I would say is that there's about, I'd say about 40% of the people that jump in the car, generally speaking, have no interest in engaging whatsoever. They just want to be on their phone and the social media. And that really, really bothered me. It really, really did. And so unless you could tell that a person didn't want to sort of interact because they're busy or they have sort of a business, something to do, I would try to actually have a conversation with them. There's a word that's actually described this use. It's called chronic smartphone stress, and it's sort of this notion that you keep looking for engagement and you keep looking for notifications, and if you don't that, it sort of like creates sort of a stress and anxiety inside you. It's really important that when you when you're outside of sort of your social setting or people, that you try to connect with others. Try to connect with people and sort of disengage from sort of like using the phone, and just be more aware and be more connected and be more sort of like in the now and in the present.